I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Reclaiming Your Health. I am your host, C.C. Péan. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited about today's dish because it is unique. I am a child of the diaspora. My mother was from Guyana, the West Indies, Guyana, South America, and I grew up eating porridge. Porridge is something that is like a ratatouille moment for me. When I have some of my fondest memories of growing up, they have to do with a nice steaming bowl of cornmeal porridge. Now, the great thing about porridge is it's incredibly filling. It's the kind of thing that you have it and you're set. Especially cornmeal porridge, it goes into your stomach and just like takes up residence for hours and you're good. It's such a luscious dish as well. My mother used to make it with golden raisins, and she would squeeze her own coconut milk to cook it in. And it was such a great experience. I don't eat cornmeal porridge as much anymore, but I still enjoy a hot bowl of some kind of breakfast cereal in the morning. Well, what's different about what we're making today is that our porridge is going to be made from quinoa. Yes, quinoa is something that is so huge. It's taken off and everybody eats it because it is a carbohydrate that your body processes in a much more efficient way. And because of how it is structured, it does not cause your insulin levels to spike. So a lot of people eat quinoa, but they're used to eating it in very traditional ways as a substitute for rice and things like that. Well, one of the things that you learn when you are doing a plant-based lifestyle is that you're not going to necessarily have traditional meals every time. Why does breakfast have to be eggs and bacon or tofu and stripples and pancakes and waffles? Why can't it be quinoa? So I said, why can't it be quinoa in the place of a cereal? So that is what we're going to make today. So I've got my pan going already. We've got a cup of quinoa. I have 1 cup of water and 1 cup of plant milk, which I've used oat milk here. I've got a few things that I'm going to dress it up with at the end. I'm going to add some almond butter in there to get that nice healthy fat. We're going to season it with some vanilla essence, some cardamom, which I love, and we're going to do a little bit of sweetener with some agave. The first thing we're going to do, I've got my pan going, and we're going to toast our quinoa. I like to do that because it gives it an altogether different texture when you do that. Okay, so this quinoa was rinsed, and now I'm just going to toast it, just putting some heat under it. Not too long, but it's going to start to, you're going to know that you have toasted it long enough when it starts to have like a nutty smell to it. So you're going to have to get close, and you'll start to smell like a nutty scent. Now, when I use quinoa for things like pilaf, or I'm substituting it for rice, I'm very close to my measurements. In other words, I'll have like a cup of quinoa and 2 cups of liquid. You know what? I misspoke earlier. This is 2.5 cups of liquid. Because we're making a porridge, I don't want it to be creamy. I want it to be more clumpy. So I'm going to add a little extra liquid to this mixture. So this is really smelling nutty. I'm toasting this in a dry pan. There's no need to add any oil or butter or anything like that to it. Smells great. So to this, I am simply going to add my 2.5 cups mixture of plant milk and water. I hope my alarm doesn't go off, and I'm going to turn it down because I had it at a higher heat to toast. And now that it's gone in, I'm going to turn down the temperature to between like a simmer. And to this, I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla essence. Now, you can also add almond essence to that. That would be delicioso. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of cardamom. Cardamom is a spice that I grew up with. Again, it's attached to my childhood and Guyanese culture. Cardamom is used quite a bit in dishes. I use it in place of cinnamon. I just love cardamom. It has Indian origins, and my mother's country, Guyana, is largely influenced by Indian culture because the population is almost overwhelmingly East Indian. So it is something that I have very fond memories of, and I just love to include it when I can make dishes. So that's added in. It's already smelling wonderful. And typically this takes about 20 minutes to cook. You'll know it's almost done when the grains start to look a little, there's like an outer rim that starts to get a little translucent. That's when you'll know that it's done. So I'm gonna put a lid on this, and then we'll come back in a few minutes and we'll see how it's going. So it's been about 15 minutes that our quinoa has been cooking. Remember, we did 1 cup of quinoa to 2.5 cups total, a mixture of plant milk and water. We used oat milk. If you want to make this super luscious, you can use coconut milk, full fat or reduced fat. You can use almond milk. Any of those will work wonderfully in this recipe. We also added a teaspoon of vanilla essence, a teaspoon of cardamom. That's about it. So let's see what this looks like. Looks great. So as I shared with you earlier, when I'm making quinoa in the place of rice, I don't use as much water because I want it to be grainy. Let's see if we can scoot this over a little bit for you to see. There we go. But because this is like a breakfast cereal, like a porridge, we added more liquid. What I'm going to do to make this even more nutrient dense and give you a dose of some nice healthy fat, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of almond butter. That's going to go right in there. Now, of course, you don't have to use this, but this is one of those things, you know, they talk about breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. This is one of those meals. This is a filling meal that it's going to give you so much nutrition to start your day out. A lot of energy because you've got some great carbohydrates giving you energy here. We've got, you know, our fat is coming from plant. It's not dairy. Our body's going to take everything it needs and get rid of the rest. So we have mixed that peanut butter in there. And now we are going to plate. I'm just going to cut up one thing that I want to go into our beautiful bowl, and that is some banana. I actually toyed with the idea of doing some plantain on this and giving it a real islandy type of feel, but I couldn't find any ripe plantain. So we're using a Cavendish banana, which is not my favorite banana. I actually prefer to use like burro bananas, but this is what I have available to me. So this is what is going to go in our yummy quinoa porridge bowl. Yes, and I'm saying porridge. I'm not saying porridge, it's porridge. That's the West Indian in me. Okay, So we've got my beautiful earthy bowl. And by the way, people, I did not add any sweetener to this. You add whatever sweetener you want to, but because of how we're putting this bowl together, you very well may not need any, because look at what we're going to do. We've got our porridge right in the center of our bowl. And to that, we are going to add our banana slices. We've got some fresh berries that we're going to add. Let me just cut these. Some fresh berries, they're going to go in here. And why do we love berries, people? We love them because they are antioxidants. What are antioxidants? Antioxidants fight off all those bad chemicals and things that are floating around in the air, and they neutralize them, all those cancer-causing chemicals. That's why we eat berries. So we've got blueberries, we've got blackberries, strawberries, all of those are going in here in this delicious breakfast porridge bowl. And then we're going to use, just put these last few bananas on here. Then we're going to use some walnuts that are great for brain health. Okay, we're not going to use too many of them. But if there's one meal that can be higher on the calorie level, it's your breakfast meal. There we go. We're just going to drop those in there. And so here is our quinoa porridge bowl. Look at that. Doesn't that look yummy? So we've got quinoa. You can use tricolor quinoa. You can use white quinoa, any quinoa, it doesn't matter. What you need to remember is that because you're making a porridge, you're going to add more liquid to it so it cooks up softer, so it's not grainy. Now, maybe you're somebody who likes a grainier quinoa for your porridge. There are some people that like really creamy, really cooked oats, and there's some people that like it with more texture. So depending on where you fall on that spectrum is probably where you're going to fall on the quinoa spectrum. We've got 1 cup of quinoa. We've got 2.5 cups, 50-50 of plant milk and water. We put about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of peanut butter in there in the end after we let it cook. And then we just topped it with some fresh fruit. We've got our antioxidant, heart-healthy berries. We've got banana. We've got this selenium-rich walnuts for our brain health. This is the kind of nutrition you need to start your day. This is breakfast like a king in a bowl. And this took us about 20 minutes from start to finish. This is the kind of thing, if you have an Instapot or a slow cooker, this is the kind of thing that you can fix in there. So your family is ready to eat breakfast in the morning. All you have to do is put out some washed berries, a banana, and people can make their breakfast bowl and go out the door. You can take it to work. You can take it to your desk if you're still working from home, and you can enjoy a delicious meal that is not only delicious, but good for you. So thank you for joining us. Here is our healthy quinoa porridge bowl. I look forward to seeing you next week. Oh, and take pictures. I want to see how you all made this, what you used on toppings. I think this would be beautiful with like kiwi. If somebody put some kiwi or some pineapple or any kind of like a whole fruit medley would be delicious on this. When you're transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle, think outside the box. Look at these ingredients and think of different, unique ways to use them. You can do it. Thanks for joining me. See you all next week. Bye-bye.